So welcome back to Watch the Obsession live stream and chat. And this evening we are going to be talking about the Madeline Soto case. Got a little bit of wet hair. Please forgive. Running around. Just got out of the shower. Can you guys just let me know how the sound is here? I got a little bit of a different sound setup, so I just want to make sure everything is working okay for you guys. And thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad you guys are here. Yes, please hit the like button as you're coming in. Thank you, moderators, for being here, subscribers, members, people that are new. Come on in. Please do share your opinion. We definitely want to know what you think. We just ask that you please be respectful to the victims and their family members, and of course, to one another. So come on in. So let me just change this here. I have some beautiful pictures of Maddie running here in the background. I'm trying to do that. Let's see. There we go. Such a beautiful young little girl. Such a tragedy. Oh my goodness. All right. So thank you so much, Pepper. Thanks for being here. And I'm just going to say hi to everybody who's in here. There's not too many of you in here, so I'm just going to say hello, but please do share. Hit the like so people will get that notification. I know that a lot of people have had notification problems recently. I don't know if it's just with my channel or others. So I am really sorry about that. I have been told that if that happens with this channel or other channels, if you hit unsubscribe and then resubscribe, sometimes that fixes the problem. I don't know if that's true or not, but you can give it a try. Hey, Clark, welcome. How are you doing? Hey, Vicki Johnson, how's it going? Vicki says, let's see. This crime amazes me, and I've tried following the Watts case each day. Yeah, this is a horrible, horrible crime. Hi, Liz. How are you doing? Welcome. How's it going? Thank you for being here, Liz. Hi, Edward. How's it going? Always nice to see you. And Pepper, hello. How's it going? Michelle Cross, how's it going? All the way from Australia. We have a lot of people from Australia here. A lot of our moderators are from Australia. So thank God for Australia. I wouldn't be able to do without them. Let's see here. We keep going up. Hey, Kazchik, how's it going? Kazchik, most of all, and Jody is cool. They're the head moderators for this channel. Everybody, please thank them. They do such a great job. Hey, LJ, how are you doing? And scrolly scroll. Not wanting to scroll. LJ, thank you so much for the super sticker. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. A lot of you know it's very difficult to get monetization or full monetization with a true crime channel, but it's such an important topic to talk about. We're going to keep talking about it. So I don't know why YouTube doesn't approve of that, but you know, hey, Kay Braze, wow, it's wonderful to see you. I have not seen you in a while, Kay Braze. So nice to see you. All right, so let's see. So you know what, the first thing I want to go over, hey, Mary Beth, how are you doing? Nice to see you as well. And if I did miss anybody, please, please, please do not take it personally. Hey, Artemis Prime, great to see you as well. It's absolutely not personal. Hey, Mark, how's it going? It's just that, you know, my scroll is a little funky. Didn't see your name, perhaps. It definitely, and hey, McJane, Jody is cool, was not intentional. So please don't ever think that. Just say hello and we'll try to say hello back to you. All right, coming back down to current time. Hey, Grandma Sherry, how's it going? All right, so I actually haven't even read about this yet, but apparently some of the preliminary trial dates have been set for the case against Stephan Stern. So we're going to find out about that together. I'm just going to bring this information here into the stream, and then, oh, good, we have a video. How divine. Let's see. All right, hold up. Get back to the beginning of the video, because that's probably where the good information is. All right, so let me bring this into the stream, and we'll hear about the trial dates being set. No, I'm not going to sign up right now. All these freaking pop-ups. You know how that goes. Everyone knows how that goes. All right, present, share screen. And we'll kick it over to, I believe it's Court TV. Let's see. Bigger. All right.
All right, we've hit the pause button to bring you some breaking news in the case of the man accused of murdering 13-year-old Madeline Soto. Dates have now been set for both of Stephan Stern's trials. A jury trial is set in the sex abuse charges against Stearns for February 24th, 2025.
And the trial for the murder charges against Stearns is set for September 22, 2025. Stearns is accused of sexually abusing his girlfriend Jenn Soto's daughter for several years. Police discovered thousands of images.
So sorry.
All right.
I just want to get those dates again, which trial's which. Sorry, guys.
The pause button to bring you some breaking news in the case of the man accused of murdering 13-year-old Madeline Soto. Dates have now been set for both of Stephan Stearns' trials. A jury trial is set in the sex abuse charges against Stearns for February 24th, 2025.
And the trial for the murder charges against Stearns is set for September 22, 2025. Stearns is accused of sexually abusing his girlfriend Jenn Soto's daughter for several years. Police discovered thousands of images on his cell phone, allegedly sexually abusing Madeline. Stearns is also accused of murdering Madeline and disposing of her body in a wooded area in Osceola County, Florida.
Damn. All right, so that's it. Okay, so as I just said, the trial date set for the abuse charges is February 24th, 2025. All right, so right now, what is it? Gosh, October 2024. So that's really not too far away. And then the trial date set for the murder charges is set for September 22nd, 2025. So that's just about a year from now. So as y'all know, I'm sure, as far as trials go and how they take just so long to ever happen. I mean, think of, for example, the Idaho 4 trial, the trial for Brian Koberger. It feels like that thing is never going to happen, right? It's just like one delay after another, after another, after another. So considering how long it actually takes to get a trial in motion, that's not too bad. All right. So yeah, this case is an extremely difficult one. Absolutely, Vicki. It sure is. Hey, Jenn's a gypsy. What a great name. Welcome. Nice to see you. Welcome. Come on in. Everybody come on in, get comfortable. So we're going to be talking about some of, the theories of what exactly happened that horrible night when Maddie's life was taken. Like, what was going on with Stephan Stearns? What was going on with Jenn? Did Jenn know? As the title for this video says, was it Criminal Minds or just one criminal mind? So, there's theories about, I just recently put out a video. If you haven't watched it yet, please check it out. I worked really hard on researching it. I think I got some really good information. If you didn't know, Stephan Stearns was on the messaging app Telegram, that end-to-end encryption app, just 49 minutes after Jenn Soto supposedly sent her 13-year-old daughter up to that horrible dungeon of a bedroom to sleep with Stephan Stearns. He was on Telegram, that messaging app. And also, just what's going on with Telegram just recently, is in like a month ago, the president, Pavel Durov, of that messaging app company, Telegram, which has been a thing, it's founded in 2013. A lot of people are saying, oh, it's brand new, it just started. No, it's been around for a while. It's very established. There was a lot of users. Pavel Durov, the president of Telegram, was arrested for charges, that including allowing CSAM material to be traded, bought, and transmitted over his app, which of course is Telegram. Very interesting. There's also something I talked about in that video that I think it really is a big factor for this case. And, I provided a lot of sound clips from the parents and from Jenn and from Stephan Stearns' friends to back up this theory, is that Stephan Stearns had an absolute dependency, if you know what I mean. Certain things we can't say so much on YouTube, you guys get it, on prescription medication. I think probably that he was initially provided, but we'll talk more about that. And then also there is, of course, the theory that, Maddie may have, well, first of all, just been done with Stephan Stearns, was no longer going to allow him to abuse her the way that he had been, or perhaps that she was even pregnant. So we're going to take a look at all of those various theories. Hey, Giovanni's Pikachu, welcome. How are you doing? And, what they might mean ultimately to this case. So I'm just going to bring some material here into the stream. Welcome to everybody coming in. Please come in, have a seat, or stand up. You can stand up too. We encourage you to participate in chat. Please just, we ask that you be respectful to the victims, their family members, and of course to one another. All right.
Were sent upstairs. But remember, they went upstairs at 11. And look at this, at 11:49 p.m. p.m., just 49 minutes later or so after they were sent upstairs, Stephan Stearns and Madeline. Stephan Stearns is on Telegram.
We are also going to look at a topic that I believe has been largely underestimated in this case, and that is Stephan Stearns' potential reliance on medication that he was taking, perhaps prescribed by his doctor. But we're going to get into that, and I think it's really going to end up being a big deal in this case when everything shakes out.
He was pretty normal around my house. I mean, he definitely had an Adderall addiction, you know.
And this all, of course, has to do with the tragic case of Madeline Soto. And the poor girl, her tragic life ended just after she turned 13, allegedly at the hands of her mother, Jenn Soto's ex-boyfriend, I guess we would call him. As we're going to hear Stephan Stearns' parents, Chris and Deb, say in an interview segment that I'm going to play, Jenn and Stephan were in a dysfunctional, lazy, on-again, off-again relationship for 7 or 8 years. You'll hear exactly what they have to say about that. Stephan Stearns allegedly took Maddie's life, and he is currently awaiting first-degree murder charges for that offense, as well as a whole host of CSAM charges due to horrific images that were found of he and Maddie on his phone, and then 35,000 CSAM images that were found on a device in his dad's storage unit. This case is just so absolutely horrifying. But what we're going to look at today is where exactly did Stephan Stearns' money come from? By all accounts, the man is a deadbeat, totally lazy, sleeps all day, vapes, smokes pot, and takes whatever medications, and he cannot hold down a job. There isn't anybody who knows him who says differently. It's a fact. His parents say it, Jenn says it, his friends say it, his ex-girlfriends say it, and it is just a fact. He can't hold down a job, yet he has some very expensive hobbies. He's painting Warhammer figurines and collecting Tamagotchis and these local. And listen, no offense to anybody that is into any of these things that I'm talking about here. I don't mean to be, degrading to somebody. Maybe you're an adult and you just really like Tamagotchis and you have a Tamagotchi collection. I'm not busting on you or anything. It's just the whole picture of Stephan Stearns, of how lazy he was, how much he spent, how much his hobbies cost when he had absolutely no job. And there is a very big question of where did that money come from? And I think that is going to be a huge revelation in the trial. What do you guys think? Okana cards and some other things that he and Jenn Soto and his parents talk about him doing that cost a lot of money. First of all, when I heard about these things, Warhammer and Tamagotchi and Okana cards, I honestly didn't even know what they were. So I had to look into it. And if you don't know what they are, I'm going to show you exactly what they are, how much they cost, and we are going to do a deep dive into the question, where did Stephan Stearns get his money from? How did he make his money? Many speculate that the answer to that question is just one of the horrifying pieces of the puzzle that so sadly made up Madeline Soto's experience over the past several years while Stephan Stearns was allowed into her life. We're going to take a look at Telegraph, the end-to-end encryption service that some believe Stephan Stearns may have been utilizing to sell the images that were stored on his devices.
Telegram collects far less data than the other apps we've discussed. The only thing they will disclose is that for confirmed terrorist investigations, Telegram may disclose the user's IP address and phone number. No messages, no address books, nothing.
We are also going to take a look into the question, did Jenn Soto know what was going on, or did she not know what was going on?
All right. It's just surprising that somebody that was there during the death and probably responsible for it certainly participated and hasn't been arrested. In talking to Stephan, and obviously he's not telling us much because he's under the instructions of his attorney. But he said something kind of odd that we've been my wife and I have been kind of kicking back and forth, and he made a statement that said, I didn't start it. Getting to the chase, I think they were involved in some sort of criminal enterprise.
Now, that is a clip from an interview in July of 2024, months after Madeline Soto's body was found. And we're going to return back to it. But first, let's listen to a clip from an interview in March of 2024, right after Madeline Soto's body was found and right after Stephan Stearns was charged with first-degree homicide.
So, any idea how long Stephan and Jenn have been in a relationship?
7 years.
7 years.
7 to 8 years, somewhere in there.
Okay. And was it constant throughout those 7 and 8 years, or on and off, or?
They were friends first, close friends first, and then it evolved into a romantic relationship. I think probably the first 18 months was just friendship, and then it changed from there. And no, we did not like the relationship.
Why not?
Didn't approve of her.
No.
Why?
She was bad influence on because of her,
Drugs.
well, drugs plus, I think she was taking medications for depression, anxiety, what have you, and I just didn't feel that she was going to be a good influence on her.
She's bipolar. She's bisexual. She's a drug addict. She had a young child. The family was disapproving, and she was sharing those drugs with Stephan. And I don't approve of vaping. We don't do any drugs. We don't even drink. I can't even take specified medication for pain because my body rejects them, and I get really, really sick from them. So, I mean, open heart surgery, over Tylenol.
Wow.
So it's
And they slept all the time.
Yeah.
And you know, we had a hard enough time dealing with Stephan sleeping all the time, and now he's got a relationship with somebody else that does it as well. It's just like they were feeding off of each other, and none of it in a positive way. And that's why I disapprove of a lot of Stephan's.
Well, that's the only thing. Yeah, only thing her mother and I approved of together was the fact that we didn't approve of the relationship because.
Yes, let's see. Jen's a Gypsy just said, Stephan Stearns' mom is such a character. You know, I was just going to ask you guys, what do you think of Stephan Stearns' mother? Now, first of all, I am not one of those people who is along the lines of thinking, you know, Stephan Stearns did this terrible thing. So, you know, by virtue of him doing these terrible things, you know, his mother is somehow, you know, should be implicated in being responsible for this crime. I definitely don't think this at all. But you know, the channel Gray Hughes Investigates, I, you know, took some clips from here and in the description for this video. You know, I've linked to his channel if you're not familiar with him. He did a lot of good work on this case. And he actually made an interview. He made a recording that puts together interviews with 4 of Stephan Stearns' friends over time. And the ones who did know Stephan Stearns' mother had quite some tales to tell about her, particularly one person that he knew when he was a younger child. Apparently, they were friends because the mothers rode horses together and the mothers were good friends. You know, he said that the mother, Deb Stearns, was very controlling, that, you know, she actually got physical with Stephan Stearns, that she was always, you know, yelling at him and dogging on him. And she was just kind of like a really squirrely kind of person. Pepper says she's oblivious. Yeah. And Sunkiss says the big man baby. Absolutely. But I was just wondering what you guys think of her. Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to keep playing this.
If Jenn started spiraling down, going her holes of depression, she took Stephan with him. If he was depressed, he brought her in. And it was just always like a balancing act with those two. This is not good. It's not a good dynamic.
You know, when he said they were always sleeping, like constantly,
Yeah.
were they taking medicine to go sleeping, or they were just?
They would fake out.
Yeah. Well, Stephan has a sleeping disorder, sleep apnea. So he's been tested for it, and his he would be up all night and sleep all day.
Okay.
Type of deal. And we really didn't have that much physical interaction with them. These are things that we just observe from a distance, and trying to talk to Stephan at times, but we just really didn't have any social activity with him to speak of.
When Stephan would be here in town, like what would his routine be? Would he just, is he a homebody, or?
He locked himself in his room, and we would see him maybe once in a while, tell him dinner's ready, but he was constantly in his room all the time.
He was painting his little minis for Warhammer.
Yeah,
He spent a lot of time doing that. A lot of time learning the new books as they came out. A lot of time online. He did go play ice once a week. Tried to get him to go to the beach. Tried to get him to go to church. Tried to get him to go shooting with us. No.
Did he give an excuse why he wouldn't want to go?
Like,
just no motivation.
And he walked around with Jenn on the phone on FaceTime all the time. I would be in the kitchen, I would look up and I would see Jenn, and she's like, and I'd look at her and her eyes were on. I said, Jenn, are you baked? And she says, oh yeah. I'm like,
And this is recently or throughout the years?
In the last few weeks, yeah.
Okay.
He wasn't. I brought him back in December because I was supporting him living there, and I didn't know that I was supporting the whole family.
Mhm.
Again, Stephan's great at omitting information, not being transparent with me. And when I said to him, I can't afford to have you working for Disney.
Mhm.
And there's always a deficit in his budget for one reason or another, but somehow he had expensive toys, what have you, and where the money came for that, he didn't even after he arrived here. Packages were arriving. I said, I'm not giving him any money. Where the hell is it? Stephan, it's money I saved. I said, you're going, Bohica. You know what Bohica is? It's an acronym. And Bend Over Here comes again.
Yeah, well, bend over here comes again. I guess based on what the father has said here and also what he said in other interviews, we know that the parents were definitely sort of enabling him to leave the kind of POS lifestyle that he was living, where, he didn't bring any money. He was just kind of loafing around, had all of these expensive childish habits or hobbies that he had. I was just listening to an interview with Natalie, one of the roommates, and she was talking about how Jenn used to confide in her about, what the problems were between her and Stephan Stearns. What were the problems in the relationship? And according to her, it was always Jenn complaining that he didn't provide, that he didn't contribute to the relationship in any meaningful way. And my God, how she put up with that crap for 8 years, I don't even know. Now, I just left a comment saying that I have come to develop a pretty clear idea in my mind of, the charges that I believe that Jenn Soto should be brought up on. And I'll share that with you in a little while. And I think it's really important because the eyes are on this case. And what happens in this case is sending a message to the public about what will and will not be tolerated in our society. And I always think it is so important that the justice system supports not normalizing horrible behavior, right? And if she's not brought up in any charges, the justice system in that way, I believe, is failing the public. Play. Sorry, I guess this is stuck here.
And, he called me up and said, well, I'm short of funds. Can you, sell me $150, send him that. But meanwhile, now he's telling me he's got money in savings, which I didn't believe. Mm-hmm. So where the money was coming from, I have no idea. But these packages just kept arriving.
When you would support him, how would you get him money?
I sell it.
Okay.
And I paid him, Juan charged Jenn rent, and then in November of 2022, the reason why I know that because I looked at it the other day, I said, how far back have I been paying rent there? But he started charging Stephan rent, even though he was sharing a room with Jenn. Mm-hmm. And then they decided that they weren't going to be in a relationship anymore, and he took over a full room, and now I had to pay $600. And so this just kept escalating. He wasn't taking care of his car. I was waiting for that shoe to drop. So finally, I said, I can't afford you to live there anymore, and I moved him back here. Mm-hmm. And I thought we had hoped that the year that he had spent at Disney that he had matured and was now, accepting responsibility and had the discipline routine, and that I could bring him back here and help him maybe develop into something with a better career path than working for Disney forever and not get anywhere, because at $30,000 a year, he couldn't support himself if he wanted to live on his own.
Right.
And that turned out to be a huge disappointment, because he fell right back into his, locked himself in his room, wouldn't help us around the house. And we were like on eggshells, because when he was here, it was always tension because of his sleep disorder and the dogs, obviously.
Where the hell was the parenting? I mean, it's almost an absurd question. Stephan Stearns was 37 years old at the time this horrible, horrible crime was committed. The parents were absolutely enabling them. And, I have a lot of love for them too, and compassion for them, because what they are going through must be absolutely hellish. But where was the parenting? Where was it? And the same question, of course, can be asked of Jenn Soto. Where was the parenting?
You're not the quietest things.
Right.
And, they have their routine. We have our routine. So we let them out in the evening, and it's chaos with them. We let them out in the morning, it's chaos. But for the most of the time, they're at feeding time. They're quiet, But again, that would disturb them. But didn't want to cause a flare up with them.
Okay, so there in that interview clip, Stephan Stearns' parents, Deb and Chris, acknowledge his horrible habits, that he could not hold down a job, that he just slept all day. They said he had sleep apnea, so he was up all night, slept all day, which I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but to me, that is not characteristic of sleep apnea. Well, I did a little research of it. It doesn't seem to be a characteristic of sleep apnea. And, his father says, I was selling him money. He's like, I need $150 here. I need $150 there. He owns up to, supporting this deadbeat. When he really, should have said, hey son, launch, get out of my house, get a job, support yourself. You're 37 years old, for Christ's sake, right? But, even acknowledging that, Stephan Stearns' parents themselves asked the big question.
Big question. The really big question out there. All of that stuff on the computer, all of that stuff on his phone, all of the money that was coming in by the handfuls, and the way they were spending it. Where did it come from? And could she, obviously she also participated in spending the money, so do you think she was at all culpable?
Very suspicious that there was some sort of enterprise going on, and of course the police won't tell us anything about that. That was one conversation or question I had with them, and it almost sounded like they acknowledged Stephan and eliminated Jenn, but something definitely was going on, and I haven't been able to figure that out. But I feel there's something else out there.
Interesting, right? One of the major enduring questions of this case is, did Jenn Soto have any guilty knowledge of what was going on? And if so, what exactly did she know? It seems that Chris Stearns' parents are implying that there was some kind of criminal enterprise. I do believe they mean perhaps selling the images that were found on his devices, and that Jenn Soto was somehow in cahoots with that, which I don't know if we have any information that would imply that that is so. Maybe that will come out eventually. But the sad thing is, as we all know, Stephan Stearns' presence in Maddie's life was a detriment to her mental well-being. Here in this next interview clip, Jenn Soto is talking about, some behavioral problems she perceived in Maddie, and then says, but it was getting better when Stephan moved back to Northfield with his parents. And then listen to what she has to say. And these investigators, they are trying so hard. They're like, does Stephan Stearns do anything worthwhile? Does he walk? Does he use his own two legs? Does he have any habits that are actually physical? And they strike out.
Over the last few months.
This whole little portion of this interview here is so frustrating to me, because they're in the part of the discussion where the interviewer is trying to determine what information Jenn Soto could possibly provide that would help lead them to Madeline's body. Now it's frustrating, first of all, because Jenn Soto never says anything like, "Oh my God, my little girl! Oh my God, where is she?" She never expresses any emotion, of course, towards Maddie being missing, but also knowing that the investigator is trying to get towards, revealing where Maddie's body might be. He's asking her, does he do any sports? He's trying to, get to, would he go to any places outdoors that might give us a clue of where Maddie's body has been deposited? And all she can do is talk about his stupid little habits and hobbies. It's so frustrating.
Even better when Stephan moved out and went to Northport. Maddie and I were actually seeing a therapist together to try to work through our issues because we were having problems communicating.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So Stephan, tell me about his. I know you say he likes to play board games and all that stuff. Is he like? What else does he like to do for fun?
He's a collector. He collects.
Play sports or anything like that?
No, he collects games and hobbies. He collects. Do you know what Tamagotchis are?
Mm-hmm.
He collects Tamagotchis. He's got so many of those. Digimons, lightsabers.
Does he like to go camping? Does he like to go to the beach or any of that stuff?
Yeah, the beach makes him self-conscious because he doesn't like how his body looks. He calls himself Flappy.
Because he is.
But no, he's not an outdoorsy person. He doesn't play sports. He doesn't like the beach. Okay, he used to. Okay, this may be irrelevant. Back a few years ago, I used to own a scooter, an electric scooter, and he owned something called a one wheel, which is kind of like a scooter but with one big round wheel in the middle. We would take that and ride around. The Kissimmee Trail connects back here.
Mm-hmm. Man, Stephan Stern, he epitomizes lazy among some other choice words that we could mention now, but we are going to get to all of that. So let's talk about the one wheel. Why walk when you can just stand on something and have it do the work for you? If you're Stephan Stern, because you don't care to work, for any reason in the world. Oh my gosh. So, this one wheel here, this is what it is. And, they basically range in price. Even when used, I was finding from the very lowest point around $700 up to about $3,000. So yeah, instead of just using your own 2 feet, which is free, Stephan Stern needs an expensive, frivolous toy so he can be lazy and gluttonous. And then, he has this collection of Tamagotchis, and somewhere it was said that he has 200 to 300 Tamagotchis. Now, I understand apparently they are collector's items. One of his childhood friends who did an interview with Gray Hughes Investigates, kind of defended him. Now, this guy owns a video store out in Colorado. So he was sort of defending it to Gray Hughes, saying, it's kind of like a baseball card. It's like you collect them, but they range anywhere from $50 to the, several $100s and upward range, depending on which Tamagotchi it is. And now, what is a Tamagotchi? It is an electronic pet.
Next, we have the Tamagotchi for You. This was released in 2014, I believe, and this was one of the colored Tamagotchis that was not very popular, and that is because they changed the growth of the character. So usually there would be a teenager stage when you run your Tamagotchis. They completely removed that on this Tamagotchi. Instead, you now have 2 adult stages, and people really didn't like that. And also the content on this is apparently not as interesting, and they removed a lot of features. Usually with Tamagotchis, you get a set number of characters that you can transform into, but with these Tamagotchi mixes, you can actually marry different characters, and the offsprings that you get from the married Tamagotchis will have features of both the mum and the dad. So once your Tamagotchi connects to the phone, you can see it on your screen, which is really cool because then you can see it bigger. So you just go visit the park. Mine is already an adult. I can have him, I think he's a boy, I can have him married to one of these people. And all these characters hanging out in the park here are players from all around the world that are currently on the app as well. And say, for instance, I find this character to be really cute. I can click on him or her. I can like the character or propose to it.
Clearly, Tamagotchis are something that would attract children. There are new Tamagotchis, and this is very much a child's game. And apparently, with this interaction option with the app, you're actually able to interact with other people that are playing Tamagotchi. And, you know, a lot of those people demographically are children. So was this just another of Stephan Stern's way to meet and try to control and abuse and exploit children? Then there is Warhammer. We hear his mom talking about sitting in his room and painting his figurines. Basically, that's all that he did. And his friend Frank, who we're about to hear from, met him because they played Warhammer together. And Warhammer is also an expensive little hobby to have. The starter kits run from $197 to about $400 to get you going in your Warhammer habit. And I actually talked to somebody who's really into Warhammer, and he says he's easily spent thousands of dollars on it. And most people who play it are spending big money to, design their own. I'm not really sure why, honestly, but it's an expensive hobby to have. Once again, this is a very teenage-centered activity, preteen, teenage-centered activity. That's who it's marketed towards. And, well, you know, there you go. So we are moving towards looking into the Telegram information. I promise. I know that's what a lot of people are interested in hearing. But I first want to just hear very briefly from a couple of Stephan Stern's friends from various points in his life. This first guy, Josh, he was friends with when he was a teenager. Josh actually lived with him and his family in Florida for a while. They'd been friends, like, you know, really ever since. And here he's talking about a time when, you know, he had moved out to Colorado after he had divorced his wife, who, by the way, he later says that he found out Stephan was hitting on after they divorced, but that's a whole different story. And, you know, just here's what he has to say, and it gives us some insight into Stephan Stern's.
Opened my own video game store here in Colorado, and, you know, he had told me that he was, you know, not working and needed work, and I was like, dude, come here, please come here. My employees are not great. I need help. And then he told me, well, you know, finances for me to come there don't look so great, and, you know, I don't know how to cover these expenses, and my dad said this, and, you know, all these, like, it just seemed like just excuses to stay where he was. But shortly after that, he did end up coming to visit him, and Jenn had come out here to visit, and we hung out for a few days and took him on a couple drives around the area. Yeah.
So how long has he known Jenn?
I'd say 8 years-ish.
Oh, wow, 8 years, okay.
Yeah, like, they've been together for a long time. And their relationship has always been like this on-off, on-again type relationship. So for me, it's just been on, right?
Now, this guy that you're listening to right now, this is a friend of Stephan Stern's. And again, I found this on Gray Hughes' channel. He did some interviews with some of the friends, and he was a friend of his. They had met in California. He ended up moving to Florida where they were, and he was living with Stephan Stern's and the family for a while. He's one of the people that was reporting that the mother was very abusive to him. He's the one that described actual physical abuse and said that, you know, Stephan then went and stayed with him and his mother for a little while, and his mother just kind of didn't say where he was because, you know, they were concerned about the physical abuse. He also goes on to say after he divorced his wife that he found out Stephan Stern's was sending her messages over Facebook or something like that and was hitting on his wife. And he said, well, at first I thought, well, hey, at least, you know, he has children with that wife. You know, at least I know this guy. I know that he's somebody that could be in my wife's life that would be good to the children. That's the opinion he had of him, just to give you some context there.
Because they never really, from my point of view, they never really separated. Like I've heard in the other interviews that he had moved out, and, but even still, but shortly after that, me and my ex-wife went to go visit them in Florida with my children as well. And we had a day at Disneyland. They took us to Disneyland. And we hung out all together at Disneyland that day. And that's before he had worked there. We've always been the nerdy kids.
So again, here, he says he took his friend and the wife and all the kids to Disneyland for the day, and just looking at the price of tickets, that's going to be at least $1,000 for a day outing. And it's nice to take your friends out when they're in from out of town. But, if you don't have a job, as this friend reiterated, and as all his friends reiterate, then how do you get that $1,000 for one day outing? So next we're going to hear from a friend of him from, more recent time in his life. I think he says he met him about 3 years ago. This guy's name is Frank, and he would go over to Frank's house to play, Warhammer and smoke pot.
I met him playing, I got into Warhammer 40K at tabletop, like RPG game, and he was one of the people there, and I clicked with him right away because, he smoked pot, and I was like, oh, okay, I can have someone to, smoke a joint with and play some tabletop game. And after that, he was at my house. I mean, religiously, I would say every weekend. He was pretty normal around my house. I mean, he definitely had an Adderall addiction. He didn't eat much, that I remember, and he stayed up all night. He would wake up like way later than like 4:30, 5 o'clock every day. So woke up 4:30, 5 o'clock. Didn't have a job. I always thought that was weird. That he didn't work, but he had money to buy all these like pretty expensive RPG games. When I first met him, he wasn't working at all.
Okay, that was 3 years ago? That was 3 years
Yeah, when I first met him, he didn't work that whole time until he went to Kissimmee, moved in with Jenn, and they got back together because they had split up at one point, and then he moved back into his parents. I always thought that was weird that he...
That was 3 years?
Yeah, when I first met him, he didn't work that whole time until he went to Kissimmee, moved in with Jenn, and they got back together because they had split up at one point, and then he moved back into his parents. I always thought that was weird that he lived with his parents, woke up whenever he wanted, but had money to buy these expensive Warhammer stuff. I was like, this doesn't add up. His parents giving him money. I didn't really know. Also, when he came back, I mean, he lost a drastic amount of weight, like drastic. Like he looked sick, and I was like, dude, what happened? And then found out he got his Adderall dosage boosted, and he just wasn't eating. And I don't know if he was abusing it. I know there was days he would take it, days he wouldn't take it. He would call off work some days. He was telling me, from Disney. So I don't.
Guys, it's important to know that this person, Frank, that is talking was a contemporaneous friend of, Stephan Stearns as to the time when this horrible crime was committed. They were friends just recently. In fact, he was saying that, they had plans for Stephan Stearns to attend an upcoming concert with he and his friends. And he's like, well, I guess I'm not going now. And, Gray Hugh's like, well, yeah, he's not going now. He's in jail with these horrible charges, of course, right? But what he is describing here, I promise you, and you might know this, is absolutely typical prototype-like behavior of an addict. It absolutely is.
I don't know if he was up all night, up all day, and then missing work, or if he chose to call out of work because he wanted to be with Madeline.
Okay, so as a behavioral therapist and working with young people, several of them, and many of them throughout the years for certain, who take Adderall, I do know that doctors, especially for an adult, are not going to be prescribing a high enough dose. In fact, they can only legally prescribe such a high dose because it's a highly controlled substance, that's going to make somebody lose weight drastically like that. Now, also, his friend Frank here is saying, I don't know if he was abusing it, indicating to me that he believes he was abusing it. Also, the behavior that he is explaining here is, and I'm just speculating, but I feel pretty certain about it, is the behavior of an addict. So if he was addicted to this drug and he wasn't getting enough from his doctor to fulfill his addicted needs, then he was buying it off of the black market. And it is expensive. Funding an addiction to that substance to the degree that I believe he was addicted would be very, very expensive. We're talking thousands of dollars a month easily. So there's another place I speculate Stephan Stearns was spending a lot of money, but he did not have any coming in.
I want to go back to the medication and that, Stephan. So Stephan on Saturday asked you if you had any of medicine to calm his.
Now, listen very carefully to this as well. Listen very carefully. Now, there is another time in this interview, I didn't include it in here. I should have, but I didn't think to until after the fact, when Stephan Stearns' mother says, in the same conversation, well, I heard Jenn say, don't worry, because he was clearly expressing that he was going through withdrawal. He was describing symptoms of withdrawal to a medication you're dependent on. And she said, oh, don't worry. I have stuff here for you. Okay.
Anxiety. Did he have prescription medication that just wasn't filled or
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So he didn't have any medicine to take to Kissimmee?
No, not that we're aware of. And one of the things I was pressing hard was when he left Kissimmee, I said, talk to Human Resources to get your insurance coverage after you leave, because you need it for prescriptions. And so up until 2 weeks ago, I'm assuming he had enough medication to get him through, but he needed some medication, so we're trying to get him back on insurance, which I did.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a waiting period of a few days that we were supposed to call in and then arrange to get his prescription filled. He contacted the doctor, supposedly, because I told him to, and there would have been a prescription waiting for him, but it never got filled.
Okay, so this whole story here is very suspicious. I mean, Stephan Stearns asking his dad to see if he has any anxiety medication, which he could have been addicted to. Benzodiazepines, highly addictive. And then what he's describing here with his lapse of insurance, there was a waiting period. There was supposed to be medication waiting for him, but there really wasn't. This is all very suspicious, and in my professional opinion, is a sign of somebody addicted to prescription medications playing those games. Is this the missing piece of the puzzle? Did he go back to Jenn's place in Kissimmee because he knew that there he would find Adderall? Guys, Maddie was taking that. Hydroxyzine, although it's not a benzodiazepine, it is a very powerful antihistamine and anti-anxiety medication. Stephan Stearns could have been so desperate for his fix of what he needed because he was addicted to it. He was going to go there, take Maddie's medication. Could that be the motivation for everything? I don't know about that, but I mean, people get desperate when they're addicted to drugs and they do not have them. This is a very serious consideration that's been largely overlooked.
Gotcha. Okay.
When did he start taking prescription medication? Do you remember?
He started taking Adderall when he was a child. I mean, he has a TBI, and he was on an IEP through school, individual education program. He went to special classes. He was hit by a truck when he was 8, hit in the back of the head with a bumper, run over his torso, and then the guy heard everybody scream, put the car, drive and drove back over and got him in the front of the head. And then, so he.
Well, how long has he been seeing the psychologist?
Counselor there?
Yeah, counselor.
About 4 years.
So she was prescribing medications for him at least 4 or 5 years ago, whenever he started going to counseling.
So when you last saw him on Saturday, he's having this episode. The next time you see him is Tuesday night, going into Wednesday?
Wednesday morning, 2:59.
Early in the morning.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Change in his demeanor, I'm assuming, was different?
Just very stoic, no emotions. Again, I'm attributing to maybe medication he's taking.
Stoic, what a word. Stoic to me is more like quietly brave, which is the last thing that this piece of crap is. I mean, that's a known at this point.
In fact,
where would he get that medication? From Jenn, if he was going to take it?
Yeah, in fact, Jenn said, "Oh, don't worry about it. I have some meds."
Oh, there it is.
And then the fact that we're now looking at early Wednesday morning, now going back to 5 o'clock, well, actually even sooner than that since he knew the two events. So from that Monday afternoon or sometime Monday all the way to Wednesday early morning, I don't know how much sleep he's had. I know he's been under a lot of pressure, obviously, from questioning and interviews and what have you. So I didn't expect to see much of him, much other than just being somewhat stoic, kind of zombie, out of it.
I'm going to have to read you the rest of what Stephan Stern's father, Chris, said here because I keep getting blocked from posting this video due to fraudulent copyright claims for the next 20 seconds of.
That happens sometimes with big cases. It was a big problem with the Watts case. Some of the security cam footage, this company was wrongly claiming on all these creators, copyright infringements that they owned it. And this has been happening a little bit with other cases. And I just ran into it with this case. So creators, look out.
Of his statement. So I'm really sorry about that. So Stephan Stern's father, Chris, goes on to say, and when I left him in his room, he was sitting in a chair. And in fact, I remember hearing a comment with Jenn when I was talking to them. They were driving over the hotel and she's yelling at him to wake up because he's sleeping in the car. And when I left him, he was there sleeping in a chair. He looked like a guy who was going to pass out. And to hear that he drove down to Northport and back shocks the shit out of me. The guy was like out of it. And where he came up with all that energy to do that. And then he came back to the hotel room and he's got an energy drink. He immediately crawls back in bed and he is dead to the world. Based on, everything we know in this portion of this interview, I believe that Stephan Stern was a man who desperately needed money, who needed these medications that he was addicted to and obviously had all sorts of problems. So when he did have money, where was it coming from? I think that he probably found himself in these situations before where he needed a lot of money really quickly. And how did he get it? Because as we've well established, the man did not work, period. Which brings us to Telegram.
Okay, I just want to read this comment really quickly and welcome. Let's see, I have to make this bigger. Welcome the narrator who says to Cape Rays, I wouldn't be surprised if we found out Maddie had an Adderall script and he was taking it. Well, guess what? She did have an Adderall prescription and I feel certain he was taking it. We have all those accounts from Maddie's teachers and counselors at school that she would just sleep, like during entire classes, like all day long. One teacher, I made a video of just the testimonies, the accounts from Madeline's teachers and her counselors. And the one teacher said, yeah, she would sleep so often. I refer to them as her sleepy days. Now, listen, I've been in education for a long time. Before I was a behavioral therapist, I was a special educator. And, I have a lot of compassion for how hard these educators work and the counselors work. But when you listen to everything they had to say, it was really troublesome to me that none of them attested to having a really strong connection or relationship with Maddie, except for this one music teacher. I guess she was really into music and that was awesome, but that they didn't have the strong connection to her. And in my opinion, and yes, it is easier to see this in retrospect. And again, I'm not dogging on them, but I'm wondering if anyone, and if they did, how often and how many of them, called the child abuse line to have this investigated by CPS, because of course, as educators and counselors, anyone that works in a school is necessarily a mandated reporter. So, yeah.
Okay, so Telegram. So why are people even talking about Telegram as it relates to this case? Well, I'm actually going to play you a clip from the channel Gray Hughes Investigates, and I'm going to leave a link to his channel and to this particular video in the description box. About 2 weeks ago, Gray Hughes put out a video entitled New, with Stephan Stern's making money online, and he tells us here why Telegram has become relevant to this case. And it sounds like he was one of the people that kind of figured this out. So I just want to give him credit for that. So let's listen to what Gray Hughes has to say here.
Early on in this case, an individual online came across this There's a website where you can search and where people have been, etc., on social media. And they came up with this right here. Now, they contacted me and we verified it because that time code right there, the 44905, we weren't sure if that was the local time of Stephan Stearns, or is that just a standard time, like GMT time, something like that. And it turns out that's exactly what it is. That time never changed. So the person I was communicating with lives like 3 or 4 time zones away from me, and they have the same time that I got using the same app. So it was 44905 GMT time. But if you account for the 5 hours off, it's -5. You have to take off 5 hours, and it makes it 11:49 p.m. on the 25th. So see how it says the 26th right there? It's actually 11:49 on the 25th, and that's the night of the party, and that's the night that they were sent upstairs. Remember, they went upstairs at 11, and look at this, at 11:49 p.m., just 49 minutes later or so after they were sent upstairs, Stephan Stearns and Madeline. Stephan Stearns is on Telegram. And what is he doing on Telegram?
Well, Ray Hughes definitely nailed the important question there. But before we explore that question, let's just take a look at Telegram and the history of Telegram a little bit. Okay, so as I was trying to research the Telegram relative to this case,
policy that
the
Telegram
only
had
information I
just
found
a
out
couple
about it,
days
I felt
ago,
like
which
I
said
got it
if
maybe a little bit
Telegram
wrong,
receives a
thinking
court
that
order that
Telegram was like
confirms
this
your
new.
Okay, yes, I've heard of this. I talked over this guy. It was because I had to actually speak that part of Chris Stearns' account that I had that wrongful copyright for, which freaking burns my butt. So let me forward to where you can actually hear one person talking at a time. What the person I was talking over, so to speak, was saying that after Pavlov Durov, the president of Telegram, was arrested just about a month or two ago. I mean, there was something that happened on August 24th, 2024, and something that happened just about a month after that when he was officially arrested. It was because he was allowing illicit and illegal things to occur over Telegram, that app that he and his brother Nikolai founded in 2013. So after his arrest, the terms of service and the rules and regulations of Telegram have tightened up, thank God. And that is what this gentleman was talking about, okay?
Said by many that this company service. Perhaps one of the ways we can understand the privileges, so to speak, that some telegrams were utilizing in Telegram is to understand why the people who are using Telegram are so upset about the recent changes that have been made in the company policies after Durov was arrested, and clearly someone else took over. The following information is from a channel called Mental Outlaw, and it's from just 2 weeks ago, and the video is entitled Telegram Will Never Be the Same.
Just the other day, there was an update to Telegram's privacy policy in section 8.3, law enforcement authorities. It now reads, if Telegram receives a valid order from the relevant judicial authorities that confirms you're a suspect in a case involving criminal activities that violate the Telegram terms of service, we will perform a legal analysis of the request and may disclose your IP address and phone number to the relevant authorities. If any data is shared, we will include such occurrences in a quarterly transparency report published at this Telegram link.
International authorities are cracking down on Telegram and messaging apps like it, clearly, as noted by the arrest of Pavel Durov. And, well, people that rely on using these apps are upset about it. Let's hear about Telegram. This is from about a year ago, and how this channel creator rates Telegram as far as privacy goes with other sort of secret messaging apps.
Telegram collects far less data than the other apps we've discussed. The only thing they will disclose is that for confirmed terrorist investigations, Telegram may disclose the user's IP address and phone number. No messages, no address books, nothing. So what I do like about Telegram is that while you need a phone number to sign up and create an account, you can create a username once your phone number has been verified. This means that if you want to chat with someone or join a group on the internet, you do not need to give out your phone number. Now, some downsides I see with Telegram. The first is that by default, chats are not end-to-end encrypted. The only chats that are end-to-end encrypted are secret chats. The cloud chat feature does store the messages encrypted in a decentralized manner, which also includes storing decryption keys in a separate place from the data according to their FAQ. This means part of your messages are stored across the globe in various data centers in different jurisdictions, which should make it near impossible for any one country to request data. They also state in their FAQ, to this day, we have disclosed 0 bytes of user data to third parties, including governments. From what I understand, the same type of distributed encrypted storage applies to group chats and channels as well. My concern comes with the fact that while things are currently stored in a secure manner, the ability does exist to decrypt your chats using their cloud data from multiple data centers across the globe, theoretically. In all honesty, a lot of companies rely on these super unlikely situations for security, and most of the time it does work. As the saying goes, security through obscurity. The problem with relying on this method is that it works until it doesn't work.
And with the arrest of Durov, it seems that perhaps we have reached that place where it doesn't work. It works until it doesn't work. So I want to read you some information from this article from Forbes cybersecurity section entitled "The Wiretap: Telegram is full of AI generated and real child abuse photos, but is that enough to arrest the CEO? Damn, I hope it would be." In recent days following the arrest of CEO and founder Pavel Durov, attention has turned to the darker parts of his Telegram platform. For years, Telegram has become home to some of the worst content imaginable. Just this week, Justice Department charged Army soldier Seth Herrera with possession and transmission of CSAM and for using unspecified AI tools to generate such images. According to the criminal complaint filed against Herrera, he created his own public Telegram group to store his CSAM and sent himself video files that included, damn, I can't even read that. That's horrible. Oh my God. Whew, this is bad. Law enforcement is now finding examples of Telegram groups where AI-generated CSAM is being shared on platforms. One current federal child exploitation investigator, who is not authorized to talk on the record, said there are, quote, entire chat rooms dedicated to nudity or fakes, where someone can post non-exploitive image of a child. So someone else in the group can make it look like there are no clothes on the child. Oh my God. As Forbes previously reported, such Telegram nudifier bots are rampant on the app and have been found marketed on YouTube before the site took them down. One expert says that Telegram has long prioritized their bottom line over the safety of their most vulnerable users, adding that Durov's arrest was significant. It sends a strong message that this kind of negligence will not be tolerated. CSAM is present on almost every other major internet platform, from Facebook to Instagram to X. The difference with Telegram, however, is that it has been accused of failing to respond to law enforcement requests for users' data, or to effectively and proactively police its platform for such content. Unlike Meta, TikTok, and many of the biggest social sites, Telegram has not tipped off the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children when moderators find CSAM, as I mentioned in that comparison between the WhatsApp reports and the Telegram reports. Even Mega, an encrypted storage service once run by the infamously anti-authoritarian Kim.com, regularly supports law enforcement investigations by providing data and tips. In HSI's experience, Telegram does not respond to process issued by U.S. law enforcement. And on Telegram's website, it states, to this day, we have disclosed 0 bytes of user data to third parties, including government. So I think you get the basic idea here about the kind of messaging site that Telegram can be for some users. Now, among the illicit activities that they talk about in these articles and the information that we've reviewed that can be, gotten away with using Telegram is CSAM, but also the exchange of DRUGS. So based on the information in this entire video, we know that Stephan Stearns may have had 2 reasons that would be made available to people using Telegram that you could not achieve using other
messaging sites, and that is to possibly transmit CSAM for profit and also maybe even to obtain, these medications that I believe he was so desperately looking for. But as the topic of this video indicates, we need to know, where did Stephan Stearns get his money? Because the man did not work. So only one of those two illicit activities that could be carried out over Telegram would be one that would actually make him money. And we all know what that is. So returning to the
Okay, so, returning to the question, where did Stephan Stearns get his money? To me, as I was researching, how Telegram works, now that we know that Stephan Stearns was on that app, Telegram, right after Jenn Soto sent her daughter upstairs to sleep with Stephan Stearns on, that night of her birthday party, either that night or in the next early morning hours when Maddie was murdered, I just feel so certain that he was selling those horrible images and videos via Telegram. And yes, Liz, like perhaps also on the dark web. But unfortunately, at the time all this happened, doing so just on Telegram, which was not part of the dark web, was totally possible. Now, we're going to switch gears and talk about the possibility of Maddie being pregnant. And Clark, thank you for the super sticker. I just saw that. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'm always glad you're here in chat, and thank you for supporting the channel. I thank you very much. We're going to go on to a conversation about the possibility of Maddie being pregnant. We're going to look at some, newscasts that have come out. I want to go to this question that Professor Vanna posed, because I think it's an important one, and it's just really an interesting one to me. I agree, Kelly, but don't you think that losing Maddie is punishment enough? I think Jenn was selfish and by default allowed Stephan Stearns to groom her and the kid. And I totally 100% agree with you. And I thought a lot about kind of the question, like, isn't losing Maddie enough? Because I do not think that Jenn was part of like some kind of criminal enterprise, that she was in any way part of colluding to commit this horrible crime. But I do think that she was definitely, guilty of, something that allowed this to happen to Maddie, something along the lines of neglect. I'm not sure exactly what law it would fall under in the state of Florida. I know what it would be in New York State, but it'd be something along the lines of neglect. And I do think that it is important that she's brought up on these charges, because as always, when we review these cases, I think it is so important. And I said this earlier, just as a society in general, and our justice system is largely, part of this. And we rely on our justice system to bolster the kinds of behaviors that we allow in our society that we consider acceptable or not. And I think it is so important that we never normalize behavior such as sending your child, to go to sleep with somebody who is a disgusting, dirty greaseball who doesn't contribute in any meaningful way to her life or your life. I do think that needs to be charged. What do you guys think about that? All right, I'm going to bring it to the stream. It's going to be from a Nancy Grace episode that recently aired about the possibility of Maddie being pregnant.
Occupied with the boyfriend. Did you hear her?
But I'm pretty sure I've heard translation. I've combed over the transcript hundreds of times. Mom is saying, I saw the pictures you showed me of him, my daughter, but, I couldn't believe he would do something evil, like kill her.
Nancy, this mother is not bonded to her daughter. She uses her daughter like bait to hold on to her boyfriend. This mother is preoccupied with the boyfriend. Did you hear her talk to the investigators about, well, he lied to other people. I never thought he would lie to me. She was more worried about her own betrayal than what had happened with her daughter. And one more thing, Nancy, when children go missing and you interview the parents, there's two things you look for. You look for whether or not they're bonded with the child, whether or not they show concern. In this case, Jennifer shows absolutely no concern. And then you also look for...
Oh, I'm sorry. One other thing I wanted to comment on, I'm so sorry to just interrupt that like that, but just before we get too far away from it is, Dr. Vanna also said, I bet that Jenn Soto has a poor relationship with her mother. Well, there was Jenn Soto's online journal that was linked in a Reddit article. I actually went over it in a live stream on this channel. I don't think I saved it. I wish I did, because if you were to check right now, that subreddit, let's see, I'll show you, has been taken down. So it's no longer available, at least where people were finding it at first. The title for here was, has anyone seen Jenn Soto's live journal? So this was a live journal of hers from about 10 years back. It connected to her MySpace. It talked about her, seeing, Maddie's father at some point, a bunch of other things. She was talking about going to college, not being able to finish college. She was going to go into the Navy for a while. She was trying to make weight for it. It talked about all of these things, but it did talk about her very poor relationship with her mother. And she talked about how as soon as she turned 18, Jenn Soto this is, her mother would not allow her to come back to the house. Like, she was kicked out. She had to go do her thing. And she did not allow her to come back, even when, sometimes life is hard, man, right? And sometimes people go out and try to do things, and who the frick knows what they want to do at 18? We make decisions. Sometimes we make poor decisions, especially when they're that young. Apparently, her mother would not support her, whatever. And they do have a very poor relationship, historically have had a poor relationship. So I did just want to make that point. Good call, Dr. Vanna. You're a good doctor. So that's all I wanted to say there. And then I'll bring it back to the Nancy Grace episode, asking, was it possible? Well, it certainly was possible. Was Maddie pregnant?
Credible details, when the child was last seen, what they were wearing, why. There's so many details missing. I mean, she didn't know what her daughter was wearing. Her boyfriend apparently left the house super early Monday morning to take the little girl to school. Well, I think we know at this point the little girl was deceased, but the mother seems to have no understanding about that.
Wait, pause. Dr. Bethany Marshall, Maddie Soto wasn't just deceased. She was strapped in to mommy's boyfriend's car in a seatbelt, dead, propped up to look like she was alive, because he knew he had to drive past an apartment cam, okay? And he would be mini cams, and he would be spotted. So let me get the visual through to you. She's dead, a 13-year-old little girl, propped up like she's alive, like this. Okay, so you take it from there. And mom's like, yeah, you just showed me. How many was it, Jackie? Hold on, Hannah McKenzie, how many thousands of images were found on boyfriend's phone? I would say sex related, but they're actually of him videoing himself. Maddie, the 13-year-old little girl. How many?
There are
Hannah?
photos and videos, countless on his phone, and on one USB that was seized, thanks to his father turning it in, there were 35,000 images of child conduct.
Okay.
And none of those were Maddie,
wait.
but on his
Can I
phone.
see Hannah McKenzie? I don't want to see him. Hannah, start from where you said 25,000. Like, just start right there. What?
On Stephan Stern's USB that his father turned into police, they found 35,000 videos and photos of. That was on one USB.
You know, Hannah McKenzie, I learned in court that silence can be just as powerful as hearing some lawyer babble on and on. See, my ear played a trick on me. I thought you said 25. You just said 35. 35,000 videos and or still images of what?
Child. And that was just on one USB. That's not even including the photos and videos he had of Maddie on his cell phone.
Photos and videos of what? Her blowing out the birthday candles, her in front of the Christmas tree, her on her birthday. Photos and videos of what, Hannah McKenzie?
Those photos and videos, we haven't even been able to air the content that was released, because reading these files and these documents that have been released by police and the sheriff's office, they're hard to even read. The details involved include him, as you said, her oftentimes she appeared to be asleep. He was, inserting his in her mouth, inserting his in her areas. Many of those times, again, while she appeared to be asleep or under a blanket.
Can I say Bethany, please, Dr. Bethany?
I mean, I'm so sorry. Obviously, I should have put out a very specific trigger warning before any of that was said, as, even though they kind of bleeped out certain words, you get the point. At the same time, I think it's so important to understand the absolute horror that Maddie was put through. It's just so upsetting.
Bethany Marshall. And get ready, Philip Dubé, defense attorney. I'm coming to you next. Dr. Bethany, isn't it true that it is a common tactic of victims to pretend they're asleep in hopes that that will make the molester go away? Go away.
Right.
They just pretend to sleep, and then they continue in that somnambulant state or pretend state to remove themselves from what's really happening to their body.
Yes, Nancy, it starts out as just simply plain dead. Then the trauma is so severe that they begin to dissociate, to separate from themselves. And in the final stage, the sexual abuse survivors describe that as children, they would float up to the ceiling and look down on the scene as they were being. And the sad thing too, Nancy, is mother was in the bed at the same time that all of this was happening, and we don't yet know what her involvement was in this. I think this guy was such a prolific offender, as intrafamilial offenders are. On average, they offend 344 times against each child because they have access to them, as opposed to somebody at school or in a different environment. But I would imagine he was trying to have sex with his girlfriend, with Jennifer, in front of the little girl, just in hopes that he would the little girl or her. That's how disturbed this guy really is.
I want you to hear Jennifer Soto in her own words. Listen.
I said, you guys, I need a good night's sleep. I need to take my meds. I sent them to sleep upstairs in the guest bedroom so that I could get a good night's sleep. I suggested that we all sleep together in the same bed together, but not the easiest person to sleep with. She rolls around, she punches, she kicks.
Robin Drake is joining me, behavior expert. And I've just got to tell you this. A lot of times I see talking heads, I'm like, what are they saying? That doesn't even make any sense. Drake, behavior expert, why? Former FBI special agent. Wait for it. Chief of the FBI Counterintelligence Behavior Analysis Program and author of, okay, you've got a spy book, Unbreakable Alliances, A Spy Recruiters, blah, blah, blah. But the one I like, that's available October 28th, is Sizing People Up, a veteran FBI agent's manual for behavior prediction. Now, Robin, thank you for being with us. And Bethany, weigh in on this. And I can't wait to get to the defense attorney, Philip Dubé. But Robin, I have looked and looked and watched, even stopped it and looked at the mother, Jennifer Soto, who now is saying, upon asking, didn't even put it out there, do you have any pregnancy tests at home? She goes, huh, what? Yeah, I haven't even checked to see if those are missing. Raising the specter that this child could be pregnant, because we all know that once a pregnancy occurs, the woman's life is in so much more danger, even in a marital setting, much less this setting. Because if she had become pregnant, then it would no longer be a secret and he would be outed. Now, what would he do to keep that from happening, Drake? Because Soto's his meal ticket. He lives between her house and his mother's basement, please. So did you watch her? Did you see her behavior as she's talking about sending her daughter off to sleep with her boyfriend? And when the sheriff goes, you got any pregnancy tests at home? And she doesn't miss a beat.
You know, Dr. Bethany hit everything so accurately on this one. And that is, not only was the daughter trying to survive by disassociating, but so is the mother. This is the most abhorrent case I think we've ever covered, Nancy. It's just befuddling about how strongly she compartmentalized. This is Jennifer, and disassociate herself from the reality. And every time she was confronted with a truth, a fact, her reality kept crashing down. And I guarantee you, this is not his first rodeo doing this horrendous acts to children, because he was so comfortable with not only abusing this girl and raping this girl, but he seemed to be so comfortable with killing her. It's just amazing. And so is Jennifer. She seems so comfortable in this lie that she's lived, that she can be surrounded by horrendousness and see to dissociate and compartmentalize away from it so effectively. It's horrendous.
Philip Dubé joining me, renowned attorney with the LA County Public Defender's Office. You know what that means? He's in court all the time, just like a prosecutor is in court all the time. A defense attorney is in court, especially a PD, public defender, like 24/7, 365. Philip Dubé, what do you think about that affective mommy? Did you see her? Have you watched the video? She's like, yeah, those pregnancy tests. Yeah, what happened to them?
I think in Jen's mind that her little angel is everybody's angel, and that she would assume that the entire world is her daughter's guardian angel. She was just so unsuspecting and unwary of what was happening in her little Walter and Mitty mind.
Bethany, help me out.
In 50% of all cases where
I don't know, guys. What that guy just said right there, like, I suspect Jenn Soto thinks that her little angel is everybody's angel. Guys, I am so sorry to say, like, I just do not feel that Jenn Soto had those feelings towards her daughter. Like, Maddie would have been my little angel. Maddie would have been your little angel. She is our little angel. But Jenn Soto did not express those feelings of love and affection. And like Dr. Vana said, even attachment to her daughter. It really is so upsetting. And Dr. Vana, I just put for you the link to the live stream where I read Jen's online journal right here in chat. So you can grab it and see it right there. Okay.
children are molested, there's what we call a bystander in the household, a teenager, a cousin, somebody who sees everything but says nothing. In a fifth of all those cases, the bystander is the mother. Okay, this is the mother here. One of the reasons mothers do this, besides the fact that they're not bonded with their children, is that they're afraid of financial repercussions. But Jennifer has a job. She has a car. She drives. She decorates the house. She doesn't have those usual motivations that one would be a bystander or look the other way. I think she was taking pleasure in this. I think she was desperate to hold on to her boyfriend at any cost. I think she's selfish, self-referential. All she talks about in those interviews is herself.
Guys, and see, this is one of the problems along the lines. And, you know, this to me is a really hard case as far as figuring out, you know, how you feel about it, because what this woman right here is saying, I do very much agree with her. And like somebody commented earlier, and I completely agree with this, you know, she is always talking about, you know, how could, when she was learning what happened, when the investigators, you know, showed her that horrible picture, you know, she's like, how could he do this to us? And she said this several times. They were like, how could he do this to Maddie? Oh my God, how could he do that to my baby? No, she didn't say, how could he do it to us? Is that what I just said? She said, how could he do this to me? To me. How could he do this to me? Was her reflexive question every single time. And I find that to be despicable.
This little girl was a thing, an object to be used, a plaything to put between her and her boyfriend to keep him in an aroused state so he would not leave her. She was used, plain and simple, by her own mother, the one person who's supposed to protect her.
Oh.
Bombshell revealed in a newly released police interview of a murdered 13-year-old's mother.
I'm sorry. And what I was going to say is that is the point that I agreed with her on, that she reiterated again, that, what was more important to Jenn Soto than loving her daughter and raising her well and protecting her was her relationship with that freaking loser, Stephan Stearns. And I really just can't get over feeling that. What do you guys think about that? I'm going to drop the link to come up on panel if anyone would like to come up and discuss this rather than to type in chat. If you want to come up and talk, then you can do that.
Was this little girl pregnant? Okay, let's take a look at mom Jenn Soto under questioning on this very topic. Listen.
We can go even worse. She's pregnant.
That's what questions last night led me to believe when we started talking about her period.
I was told that her and her friend, and granted, I'm male, never had a period, but that somebody found it weird that they were no longer on the same cycle. Could be different because she's a teenage girl. Could be that she missed her period. Have you ever found a pregnancy test at home that wasn't yours?
I have two underneath the bathroom sink, but I haven't seen if they're still there or not.
Dr. Bethany Marshall, renowned psychoanalyst, I'd like to hear your analysis of what we just saw and heard.
Well, Nancy, this mother's voice is so vacuous. And by that, I mean empty. It's like she can't even come up with emotions about this. It doesn't have that dissociated, disconnected, traumatized.
We know what vacuous means, honey. Didn't need to define it.
Sound to it. It has the sound of a woman who's never cared about her daughter at all. And all of a sudden, she has to pretend to care about her daughter, making stereotyped motions like putting her hand in her forehead, moving around as if she's sad, but she's not sad at all. Nancy, there's only one reason to have a pregnancy test, is if you're anticipating you might get pregnant. I know she's not somebody who's, been charged in this case, but on some level, it's like she was participating in a crime all along and making sure that her boyfriend wouldn't get caught. The only thing between her and the boyfriend getting caught were these pregnancy tests.
Look at the video of her. I noticed, Dr. Bethany, that right there, when he starts talking about the pregnancy test, as if that's a normal topic of conversation, is your teen girl taking pregnancy test. The mom, who has her arms closed in front of her, she's switching legs and she tries to cross them casually and then puts them in kind of a pretzel as he's asking about the pregnancy test. But what does that mean to you as you observe her?
Nancy, what I see in this video when she kind of puts herself into a pretzel, she's trying to act younger, regressed, more innocent than she really is. This is what little kids do. They sit cross-legged.
I have to say, I agree with this analysis very much.
They twist their legs around, they twirl their hair, they do all kinds of things. And it's kind of a classic maneuver, I think, behaviorally, is to act younger and more innocent than you really are.
I thought, Robin Dreek, that was a sign of being on the defense.
It can be, but normally anytime you see a deviation from what we normally see in someone's baseline, it indicates a change of thought. It could be going back to a more innocent time in life. It could be blocking. It could be stress. And that's what I'm guessing here, is that this question caused stress and caused a change of thought in her.
I'm just curious about how long this had been going on based on the videos and pictures. Hannah McKenzie joining us, Fox 35. On her daughter by her boyfriend had been going on since Maddie was about 9 years old.
Yeah, 9 years old to 13. And you got to remember, she was a new 13-year-old. Her birthday was just that previous week before she was reported missing and also killed. So this was years worth of trauma, sexual abuse that this little girl had to go through.
I want you to hear the entire panel, how Jennifer Soto keeps referring to herself
What a great question. Pepper asks, why have 2 pregnancy tests if she wasn't sexually active? We have heard a number of times through a number of people that she has not been sexually active with Stephan Stearns for a long time, that she's not had an appetite to it due to her medication. And certainly that could play a part. Of course it could, but it might also be his greasy ass that she wasn't attracted to. And that is a really good question, Pepper.
And what are problems she's having. And I also want to circle back to what she said. Well, let's address this first. She says, that's what questions last night led me to believe when we started talking about her period. Who was talking about her period, Hannah McKenzie?
So this was brought up multiple times in different interviews with law enforcement, with Jennifer multiple times. Before the pregnancy test was even brought up, they were kept asking her about her cycle, about her period. And Jennifer is on camera saying, I tracked her period. I knew when she was on her period. And the detective in the office at the time said, well, did you notice any feminine hygiene products being used in February? And Jennifer kind of sits back for a second, kind of how you were describing a shift in the body language again, and says, no, I didn't realize any feminine hygiene products were being used in February. I didn't notice that.
Online, there has been a lot of speculation about this particular photo. Moms online speculating that here 13-year-old Maddie looks pregnant. Now, based off what was found on a cell phone with graphic videos of the defendant, Stephan Stearns, the daughter, I also don't hear the police mention anything about a condom in any of those videos, suggesting they were having, well, not unprotected sex. He was her without a condom. The police were able to see a marking on his consistent with other videos and images, which means he was having unprotected sex. Other moms point to dark colored circles underneath her eyes that were not there before. I'm just wondering, what does all this mean to you, Dr. Bethany Marshall? Bombshell documents revealing how Stephan Stearns allegedly killed the teen, dumped her body. My question is, once a pregnancy occurs, does that raise the likelihood of violence?
Nancy, it most definitely does. And there are 2 reasons for this, actually. One is that the father does not want the responsibility of a baby. And the other is the father is often envious of the unborn baby, not wanting to share the attention with the baby. But in this case, of course, we know it's so much more sinister. That baby is evidence that he's been abusing this little girl. I don't think he's trying to hide a pregnancy from Jennifer, by the way, because she knows about those pregnancy tests. He has to hide it from the public and the police.
Please join us on our mission to find missing people, especially children, to solve unsolved homicides. If you're Soto calling Stephan Stearns a liar and a master manipulator, even though she says it's true.
They're not going to need her, frankly. They've got plenty of evidence independent of Jenn. All they would really establish through Jenn, if they even want to call her to the stand, is that they were living together and maybe shared a bed together. But frankly, I think they have plenty of evidence without her. But let's assume that is the case. They decide to put her on. You know, everybody has problems within their relationships independent of the children. And there is no playbook for how we speak out and lash out at our significant or even our insignificant others. And to suggest that every couple, every marriage is just lovey-dovey, picture perfect and wonderful would be frankly offensive to a jury. And it would look like you're just trying to pin the whole thing on her. So I think it could actually work to her benefit and certainly to his detriment.
Wow. The cunning you display, the thinking that goes into a defense strategy is amazing. The way you analyze that, and like your Rumpelstiltskin, you take hay and you spin it out into defense gold. Wow. Okay, guys, I want you to hear Dr. Bethany Robin Dreek, how this is all about me, and me. Listen.
And he ugly cried in front of the camera too. So he was
big sob crying.
Are you saying that now, or do you?
I'm saying that now. I didn't think that at the time. At the time, I thought he was truly heartbroken, and not that he had done all this to her. I look back now and just like, he was lying. He was faking. What else has he been lying to me about? I know he's like a master liar and manipulator because he's done it to his parents, and he's told me and shown me the lies he's done to his parents. But I don't know why I never thought, not me.
Bethany, Drake, is it just me?
Okay, so I feel like the rest of this just kind of reiterates the same point. Now, I did drop the link to panel if anyone wants to come up. So I just want to end with, I want to play a little bit from, I think this is a Duty Ron episode that I'm thinking about, where they talk about why it is that Jennifer Soto was not arrested yet. Let's see. Now, I think it was in this episode, and I have come to develop the opinion, maybe, hopefully so, it's because they need to keep her free of charges and all of that rope that, having charges against you is going to put on you. So she can, help put Stearns behind bars. But as the person just said in the Nancy Grace episode, there is an ample amount of evidence against him. But let's hear what Duty Ron has to say here. Wait a minute. Oh, I didn't bring it into the stream yet. Sorry. Oh, wait, hold it. I have someone waiting to come up on panel. Let me bring you up on panel here, and then I have to grab my my plug to charge my computer in. So, hey, Jamie. Hi, Dr. Jamie Vaughn. How are you, honey?
Hi, everyone. How are you? I can't believe I just joined.
I'm just going to walk away for a second because I have to grab my charger, but tell us what you're thinking.
Okay, I will. So I wrote notes because I'm a teacher, and that's what teachers do. So I have some notes. And wait, let's see. Where should we go? So I was talking about, I have so many notes here. Wait, hold on real quick. So all right, I have something about Jennifer's denial. And I'm thinking that her selective memory with a lot of this stuff allows her to hold on to a sense of safety, even though her daughter was in danger the whole time. So Madeline's drawings in her notebook, I don't know if any of you saw that, that suggested that while Jennifer was focused on maintaining a normal life, Madeline was silently grappling with the abuse. I just have so many notes here from so many of the different things. Every time I see something, I write stuff down.
Wait,
and I told everyone I came with my dorky notes.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. I'm just going to describe very briefly what the images you're talking about are in case people don't know. So I'm going to describe this in ways that YouTube will be okay with, but it's very disturbing. In Madeline's notebook, there was a picture that she drew that would be like a woman with like her genitals exposed essentially. And then right near there are male parts moving towards the female parts. And there's like a little like quote caption that's like, or something like that. Like so upsetting.
Why didn't anybody catch that?
I don't know.
Like right next to it, it was like a pie or like a formula.
I know.
So that had to be her math notebook.
She had to have, that's exactly what I was thinking. She had to have drawn that in class, and it's almost like someone had to have seen that,
So I also have, what do you think about this? So Stern's parents call him a narcissist in their interview.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
What do I think about that? I think that, yes. There goes my camera.
Oh, are you all right? Well, please don't fall.
No, I just hit that with my knee. I went to cross my legs. So, Stephan Stearns, is he a narcissist? I mean, I think that his psychological profile to me is so kind of like dense. I think that he very well might be a narcissist insofar as the only person that he tends to think of is himself, and he doesn't, have really care, compassion, or empathy for anyone else. What do you think of that?
I agree 100%. And I also think it's important a lot of times when somebody is very narcissistic, and I did share in the chat that my mom's a narcissist, like a true narcissist. So I
I'm
know this from
sorry.
experience. Oh no, it's okay. I have a doctorate degree. I'm good. But it's funny though, because I will tell people that no matter how much therapy one gets, I still, and I think it's because it happened in childhood, she still can get over on me. So like I've had all this therapy, it doesn't affect me or whatever, except for when it affects me. And then my kids, they're 21 and 16, but they'll be like, Mom, like there's a motive behind that. And I'm like, no. And then there's a motive. And I'm like, oh, so you could
Yeah.
even have the same degrees that I have and everything else and still fall
Sure.
into these patterns. So my thing is,
Absolutely.
Jennifer doesn't have our degrees and things like that. So I wonder if she ever, and I'm not, please, I don't want anybody to think that I think that she is a good mom or that she did the right thing there.
Right.
But I do think that she has, and I can't wait to read this journal of hers, but I do think that she has a lot of unresolved issues herself.
I think she
My dog
definitely
wanted to
does.
join. I apologize, you guys.
Oh, what kind of dog do you have?
It's a Mastiff, Thor.
Aw, I love Mastiffs. They're so cute. I used to have some pit bulls. They remind me of them a little bit. But I think that Jenn definitely does have some unresolved issues. And for that, I do feel bad for her. But again, I keep like wrestling around with all of this in my head because like you said, like, isn't, losing her daughter punishment enough? And my God, for me, that's the worst punishment that it's unthinkable, right? And I have a 16-year-old as well. But for her, I just feel like, what you keyed into as well, like the lack of attachment with Maddie, I almost feel like for her, it wasn't a punishment. It was almost like a liberation. And that is so disturbing. Oh my goodness. And just hold on, Dr. Vonna, and you can keep talking. I have to just restart my computer really quickly. I don't know why this happens.
Okay.
Keep talking. Okay.
All right. I'll try. I got this. So I wrote here that Stearns, as described by his parents, exhibits clear signs of narcissistic personality disorder. Now, let me tell you, there is something called the Goldwater rule. So as a psychologist, I can diagnose disorders, just not if I haven't met you before. So this is all just in theory. So if this was, and I think we need to revisit this rule only because I feel like in a one-on-one interview type session, we get like an hour with the person, but maybe once a week. That's 4 hours a week. You can find 4 hours worth of video on a lot of people online where they're showing how they really are. So I almost feel like we need to revisit this Goldwater rule because I feel like, I don't know. I see that he exhibits the signs of narcissistic personality disorder. But Kelly, I think you're just coming back. I'm telling everybody that I can't diagnose. I mean, I can, just not when I don't meet somebody. So this is just my opinion. That's all. I was just making sure I said just my opinion. So I put his need to control and manipulate everyone around him, made him appear like a doting stepdad to the outside world or a doting, son or boyfriend. But the truth was much darker. Narcissists excel at hiding their predatory behavior behind a mask of normalcy. My mom does that. Jennifer's mental health struggles, including her bipolar disorder and PTSD that she tells us about, I feel leaves her vulnerable to Stearns' emotional manipulation. Over time, she became emotionally dependent on him, allowing him to take more control of their lives. So Jennifer's being passivity in these moments likely reflects emotional exhaustion from years of trauma and mental health struggles. So again, I'm not giving her a free pass. I think she was less than smart. I wouldn't give her Mom of the Year award, but I also think that because of her treated, because it seems like she gets medicine, but if anybody out there, if you're listening and I can just reach anyone, try to go to, and I know that it's easier said than done, but try to make sure that if you get medication for anything mental health, that you're going to therapy as well.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's such a key component. Yeah.
Yes. And it seems like Stearns and Jenn it didn't seem like they had like a counselor it seemed like they were just taking meds.
That would be too much work, to me. Like, I just think, it's disgraceful. And I want to see, there's part of me that's like, they did have these disorders, especially Jenn. They were suffering. She did have these mental problems, but, to go, to do the responsible thing would be to do the counseling. But then some people may say, well, she's so simple and screwed up, she's not capable of that. But again, at the end of the day, she put her daughter in a situation that allowed this to happen, that allowed her to be subjected to all of this abuse over all these years. And this is behavior that we cannot normalize. And by the justice system not bringing charges against her, it allows for that normalization of this horrible behavior.
You're right. No, you're right about that. I just get worried because I don't know, because of I think it's the mental health stuff part of it that
Yeah.
worries me with that. But I do agree with you. I do agree
Sure.
that there should be punishment of some sort. I think losing her child is going to be punishment. I think she thought that Maddie was safe. This is another thing. So, although I believe one of the worst things, so I'm trying to give Jen the benefit of the doubt, but one of the things that narrator said that really gets me, and narrator, I don't know if it's a male or female, but they're correct, right? So they talk about how in the one part she offers him a lawyer. Remember that part where she offers him a lawyer? Didn't she already
Yes.
find out about the picture?
She had already seen the picture of.
Did she see Maddie in the picture, or did they say that Maddie was in the picture?
Eventually they had to show her Maddie in the picture, and this picture is of Stephan Stern's junk in Maddie's mouth.
So, but I'm wondering when she said the thing, because that would mean a lot to me to know. I wonder if she saw Maddie in the picture before or after she said that. Because if she saw Maddie in the picture before and then offered him help, then throw her to the wolves type thing. But I think, because I'm trying to also
No,
think.
I have an answer for that. They said the investigator said that he had to eventually show her Maddie in the picture because she wasn't believing it, and that was prior to her getting on the phone with Chris Stearns and saying, "You got to get him a lawyer."
Oh, so she did see the picture of her.
Yes, she did. Yes, I'm
Oh.
sure about that because that was a big deal to me too.
Ugh, I don't
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
See, now at first when she was skeptical, I try to put myself in other people's shoes, and being from Philadelphia and living in Philadelphia for the first 40 years of my life. I'm only 5 miles
I lived
outside.
there for 20. I lived
I
there for
know.
20 years. Yeah, I went to Villanova and I lived in Philly. Yeah.
As I was typing, I have Kelly on in the background as I'm typing.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm
Thank
done
you.
now,
That's
though,
awesome.
so we're good. So that's why I
Good.
can come up on time.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I worked really hard.
I'm sure.
I did, but it was worth it. So, but I just feel like with Jen, I think that was horrible about the image and then telling the dad to go get a lawyer. I think that's mind blowing. I will say though, being from Philadelphia, I was raised not to trust cops. I did not raise my children that way, but I was raised that way. I was raised in a very Italian family types.
Yeah.
You didn't talk to the cops. You didn't hear nothing. You mind your business, blah, blah, blah. So my thing is, at one point, I remember she says, but my mom warned me, don't ever let a man get into your head type thing, or don't ever trust a man. That's what she said.
Mm-hmm.
And she said her mom put that into her body.
Yes. Yes.
So, right. So at some point, what happened with Yolanda that made her teach Jen that?
That's true. What happened with Yolanda that made her teach that? But if Jen is saying, my mom said, never trust a man, she put that in my body. Like, I think what she was saying is that's so fully embodied in me. Why did she trust Stephan Stern?
Because I think psychologically, I think subconsciously, it was her way to prove her mom wrong, even though her mom wound up being right. Does that mean it was almost like, let me show you that I'll show you, and you could really tell that at least in my opinion, I feel like there's certain parts when I watch Jen talking that I don't feel like she really got, I don't think she was really getting it. Even when they were telling her, I feel like she thought they were tricking her. Again, from Philadelphia, I've been taught by my family growing up, just watch, because if you and your brother are in two separate rooms, they could lie to you and tell you your brother told us everything and So I was you don't teach your kids that, but I was taught that growing up. So if I was on TV, I mean, God forbid, touch wood, that I hope that never happened. But if I were in her shoes, I might be skeptical as well and be like, are they just trying to trick me? Are they just telling me this so that to see if I know something and I give them up? Because she even said at that point, I didn't think that he was the person. And she says, and now from after what you told me, I think he is, but I didn't think that he was the person at first.
That's true.
I just wonder how much of that did she grow up with, and you know what I mean? As opposed to it makes her look guilty. The other thing before I forget too was the fact that she tells when somebody asks her a question, she answers it. So that says to me too that I don't know that what she thought she was doing was wrong, because I feel like if she would have been like, no, they didn't sleep together that night, and then we found out that they did, that to me would be guilty. Because that to me says, that they shouldn't have been there. The way she says it, she's like, oh, yeah, I needed some, what did she say? I need some good sleep or something, or serious sleep. So I sent them off, But I couldn't believe that in that same sentence, she also said, because Maddie's like a gymnast, and she falls asleep on one side of the bed and wakes up on top of me. And I'm like, how can you not take that and apply that to her and Stephan in the other bed?
Right,
So it's like
I
she realized
know.
it with her. She's like, I needed her to sleep out there because she
'Cause
rolls
she's
all
so
over.
selfish. Yeah.
Yes. But at the same time, if she's rolling around and she ends up on you in the morning, then doesn't that mean she would end up on
She's going to be on top of Stephan? Yeah.
And I'm going to
Right.
say this very YouTube friendly.
Mhm.
I'm not a male, but from what I know, men wake up in the morning different, right?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, Stephan Stearns told an ex-girlfriend of his, this woman that worked at Disney. First of all, she's the same woman that said that Stephan Stearns had a problem getting aroused. And the only time that he was really aroused when he was with her was when he had her lay flat on the bed like she was dead. And she also said that, she wanted him, Stephan Stearns, to spend the night. And he said, no, I have to go spend the night at my ex-girlfriend's house because, I need to sleep with her daughter. And he also told this woman that he'd wake up, in bed with Maddie having a boner.
I missed that part. I did hear the part about laying flat or whatever, and that like freaked her out. So she was like, and that's the thing. That woman saw the red flag and listened to it. Right. So
Right.
I usually tell people when your heart and your head tell you something different, go with your head because your heart's dumb as shit.
That's right. That's right. I just want to read this. I want to read this one comment here. Also,
Please
see what
do.
you think about this. Flyer. Whoops. Let's see. Flyer said, didn't Jenn Soto say that she and Maddie hadn't fought in a while? And yes, she did. And it was in the beginning of a little clip that I played in that video that I made that I played for you. And she was talking about, in that time after Stephan Stearns left their house, just prior to her death, when he just came back for that one day, that, Maddie's perceived behavioral problems were evening out, that she was behaving better, and that they weren't fighting anymore, which should really tell you something. I mean, I think it was the relief that she felt without Stephan Stearns being in her life that was allowing her to be free and to behave, like a child.
I agree. That lack of insight is amazing, right?
It really is.
I think that's my thing, though, is that for many of us that are talking in the chat tonight, especially those of us that are mothers or have nieces or nephews, we all see the red flags. I, for some reason, don't know if she saw the red flags or was she that self-absorbed and lacked that much insight? Because let's be real, there are people out there that lack insight. So could she have been that like vulnerable that he was able to seek her out as like weak in his head, like somebody that he could manipulate? Because I think about it, and out of the siblings, I'm not the weakest of the link by far. But I am the most emotional. So my mom knew how to use that to her advantage, where the other siblings could be like, get lost. I was like, you're going to hurt mommy's feelings. Like, no, you know what I mean? And so my mom manipulated that and used that to her advantage. So my thing is, could she have been in a situation where he manipulated and used her? But see, the difference was I have insight. So even though I found myself in that position as a child, I was insightful enough to realize at some point that something ain't right and I need to go to therapy. And I did. So
good for you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my thing is, like, where does she lack the insight? Like, where could that? I don't know where that's coming in.
Well, okay, so I think
you're raising together. That's crazy.
I think that you're raising really good points here, but I think I have thought of like a lot of these things because I do in a way, feel compassion for, and I don't want anyone to be charged with these, anything horrible or anything at all if they're not guilty of it. But but even if she was in this vulnerable state, and I think she was very vulnerable, a child is the most vulnerable of them all. And when you're considering child neglect as a legal issue, knowledge or lack of knowledge does not have to come into play. Neglect is neglect. And I think it needs to be that way. And that's where I keep arriving back at. I think she needs to be charged for child neglect. I really, truly.
What would you think her sentence? I mean, not that you're the judge and that you whatever, but like, what do people think is like an appropriate sentence for that? Like, are we talking? You know what I mean? Like, don't you think it would be better if she got like the psychological help she needed and then maybe was like an advocate? Or and talk to other women that maybe are vulnerable
I think that could be good as maybe a reduction to her sentence. As far as what should her sentence be, I don't know what the sentencing guidelines would be for that in Florida, so I wouldn't even be able to answer that question. But I do think that that both for her as a person and also as, like an example, so this kind of behavior is not normalized. I do think that there need to be charges towards Jenn Soto in this picture. I really just feel that way. And what they are exactly, I wouldn't know. I'd have to look into like the Florida. I'd have to learn more about that.
I
You know what
actually,
I mean?
this is the most that I've been able to. So you've gotten me the furthest to I agreeing with that than anybody else has. So I will give you that. I do agree. And I think narrator too had something to do with too. I totally forgot about that where she said about the lawyer. That is not okay.
Yeah, yeah. And
then she said the thing about it's not, I didn't think he would do something evil. Like, but she said, like, that was one thing. Now, this is the thing, though. So I tried to think about that in another sense, too, and said, could she have meant, okay, we'll deal with that, but like, let's find her. Like, you know what I mean? Like, could she have been seeing it as, so maybe she said, because even before when she says things like I'm lying or psych or whatever she said something that was very childlike where instead of saying, oh, my bad, the cops took the phone, I forgot. She said something like psych or just joking. That's what she said. Just joking. So, but she really just meant like, oh, wait, I forgot. So I'm wondering, like, does she do that with other phrases that she uses? So, you know what I mean? I don't know.
I don't know. See, I totally get that, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate your perspective. But just when you look at the entirety of her interviews, the thing that stands out to me, like you were just saying, oh, is it because they wanted her to find, she wanted them to find Maddie or whatever? She doesn't show any real drive or interest towards that end goal. It's all about getting hung up on what's going to happen to Stephan and what's going to happen to her and Stephan's relationship and what's going to happen to her and her rest and her.
I was going to say the fact that she was worried about taking her medicine and getting a good night's sleep afterwards, that was a little crazy too. There is not.
She had those 2 days off. She had Monday and Tuesday off.
Yeah.
That was a Sunday night.
But then even after Maddie's missing, like, how does one go to bed?
I know. I know.
That's the time I'd skip my pills. Like, I wouldn't be like, okay, you guys, I'm going to call it a night. I'll pick back up in the morning.
I know. I mean,
so
that's
that was
how most people feel. They would tirelessly look for their child. I mean, at that point, the whole world stops, and there's one singular, laser-focused, goal in your life, and that is to find your child. It's so hard to even comprehend anything but that.
I do agree. I would have loved to have seen or listened to some of like the conversation she had with Stephan. Like even when she retells the story about him with the phone and doing the factory reset, and she was like, well, I told him, that's what did she say? That's unfortunate. I have a really good memory. I don't know why.
Yeah, you do.
She said something like, that's unfortunate, and then moved on. And my thing is, okay, if your daughter goes missing that day and he factory resets his phone, again, that lack of insight.
Right.
Like, how do you put these things together?
I know. It seemed to like really not click for her. I know.
I don't get it.
It's horrible.
I don't know. I agree, though, I guess. I mean, I do think that maybe
you don't have to agree. You can disagree.
No, I do. No, guess what, though? I don't know what I think like the penalty should be, but I do kind of agree that there should be something, because I wasn't thinking about the setting a precedent thing. So like, then what happens if somebody else in Florida, something similar happens, what they just like play like they lack insight because
right, exactly.
So I wasn't considering that. I was thinking all psychological, but I wasn't thinking about that. Like, what does that say to the rest of the population?
Right.
So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Here, let me read a couple comments here, and then I'm going to wrap up soon because we're at 2 hours and I have to go to work in the morning. So
yeah, I do too. I have to teach statistics in the morning.
Oh, good. Oh, awesome. So Luann, let's see, what does it say? Mama W says, ultimately, we are looking to protect the child. We can only go by where the child is. Did they do what was necessary to keep the child safe? Healing and guidance. Yeah, I very much do agree with that, because again, at the end of the day, I do think that Jenn Soto is vulnerable, and I think that people who are predators like Stephan Stearns are going to seek out vulnerable, especially single mothers. I've been a single mother for the whole time I've been a single mother, and I've been just like acutely aware of like that kind of thing, and but at the end of the day, the child is the most vulnerable of all in our population, and we do need to protect them, because when we stop protecting them as a society, that's just horrible, right?
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. But I wonder, do you think like she was trapped in a cycle? I put here a cycle of dependency. Like, could he have made her feel dependent on him? Again, I think a lot of this is about perception. And I think it's important for people to know that perception's reality, even when it's not real.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean by that? So like, even
it
when
is
it's
that
not real.
person's reality.
Yes.
Yeah.
If the kid thinks that dad left because you asked him to take you too many times to your friend's house, that's the kid's perception.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right,
It's like,
yeah.
even though that's not the truth, and you're like, no, dad left for like, if that's the kid's
Yeah.
perception, that's their reality. So I wonder how much of this he messed with her reality. But again,
Yeah.
that's not, again, like you said, even if that is the case, that's not an excuse for the law.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's where I'm leaning towards. Now, Drama Unleashed 2 says, stop making excuses for this vile woman. It's going to come out that she was in on selling her images and pimped her to him. My God, I hope that doesn't come out. I mean, I've definitely certainly considered that. Given the evidence that we have right now, I'm kind of leaning towards, I'm feeling like I don't, given what we know right now, and this could certainly change with as evidence coming up, I started to think, because at first I thought she could possibly even be in on that. I started to think, well, I don't think she is, and that's where I'm at right now. But my God, if it comes out that that's the case, holy, throw the book
Don't you
at her,
think she would have been
obviously.
arrested already? Because they did say, remember when the dad was like, were they working together? And then he was like, were they working independently? And they were like, Stephan was working independently.
Yes. Yes.
So they did say that. So, and this is my thing. On one hand, how can Jenn lack that much insight, but be that much of a mastermind to have a totally different phone that she didn't get caught with? Do you know what I mean? So like, I
Right.
do believe they downloaded everything on her phone and that she didn't have anything, in my opinion.
Yes.
If we find out she had something to do with it, I take back every word I said. And again, you guys, I'm not trying to make an excuse for her. I feel like there's so many, it's so easy to get on the side of like, let's hate Jenn Soto right now.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
So,
it is.
So I just wanted to provide that other perspective.
I very much appreciate that. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it is. And there is kind of definitely a mob mentality towards, go after Jenn Soto, which is kind of like in my own mind, I'm like, put on the brakes, And Margaret here says, and welcome Margaret, says they kept saying she had lunch and ate the next day. I don't even understand how she could eat with her daughter missing. I would be so upset. And that's how I feel too. But then I think, is that just me or most people I know? I mean, I don't know.
No, I agree with that.
Hard questions. Yeah. So, well, I think I'm going to wrap things up because of the time. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you
I
for
really
having
appreciate
me.
you.
That
And
was great. Thank you.
Please do email me.
I will.
Yeah,
we'll talk.
I love the conversation we had, and I appreciate that have a different perspective. And I think it's important to hold that perspective there too. So thank you so very much.
And I am
Dr.
willing
Rana.
to change my mind, just like I hope other people are willing to change their mind. Not
if
about
the evidence
everything,
comes up.
But just about little things. It doesn't have to be about your whole perspective, but at least like you said, you brought out a lot of things that I wasn't thinking of legally. So I was thinking of the, psychological aspect. So now I'll consider those things. You know what I mean? So hopefully other people consider other things that we brought up that has to do with mental health.
I think that's really important because the mental health aspect of it is very real. And clearly, Jenn Soto had a lot of issues, including mental health issues. I think, you brought up a lot of good points, and it is really important to put that into the equation.
Yes. Well, thank you, everybody, for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Everyone really likes you in chat, too. So thank you so much for coming
Thank you so much, you guys. Hopefully I'll do it again sometime. Thank you.
Yes, please do. Please do.
I will. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Awesome. Oh, well, that was good. I think, again, it's like so important to, hear those different perspectives and for all of us to try to be balanced in, the way that we're thinking about this. So I am going to go because I have to go to work in the morning. And thank you so much for Dr. Vanna coming up. I think those are really good and important conversation. Carson C says, Keschik says, thank you, Dr. Vanna. Carson C says, moms are not blamed for everything. I hope that the ladies who have children now also become a parent. Yeah, and a good parent just want to take care of your babies. So, yeah, and thank you for being respectful in chat. We all do appreciate that. Let's see. Oh, thank you for being here, Christine. I'm glad you found it. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I am just going to end this because I do have to go to work in the morning. I had a few days off because I had COVID last week. So, yeah. And Clara says, love you, Dr. Vanna. Yeah, it was great to have her up. So, all right, guys, I'll be doing some live streams this week. Be looking for that. Everybody take care. And remember, life is hard. So be kind to each other and especially be good to yourself because you absolutely deserve it. I know you do. So everyone have a great week and we'll see you soon.